Well, here's our latest catastrophe. You guys see that wiggling around? My carrier bearing took a dump today. Now, it's hard to consider yourself lucky when your stuff breaks, but I am lucky that I actually bought a new carrier bearing and new U-joints for this truck 2 years ago when the front drive shaft flew apart. The little part store that I stopped in at back then let me borrow their tools to work on it. I went ahead and bought some stuff from them that day as a thank you, and I planned on installing those new U-joints and carrier bearing back then as a little preventative maintenance, and you guys know how I am with that. That never happened. So it's gonna happen now. The only thing is I only have 2 U-joints that they sold me, and there's 3 on this drive shaft. There's gonna be one up front, there's one here, and there's one on the back. Nothing too exciting, although Moogs at least. I don't know, Moogs were the best 2 years ago. I don't know if they're still the best or not. And here's that new carrier bearing. It's all just a full assembly, so you just bolt the old one out, bolt this one on. Alright, so we're just going to work our way along it here. Start with the back U-joint first. It's just these 2 kind of pipe clamps, if you will, that hold it on. And this is a tiny little bolt. I thought it was I just figured it'd be bigger than that, but it is an 8mm. I was all set up to use my impact driver and zip them out of there, but there's not space to do it, so it's going to be a little tiny 8mm and a little tiny wrench, and we'll get that out of there. Alright, well, not going good on the back end. I think I actually stripped off one of the bolt heads, so hopefully I can get some vice grips or something on it and still break it loose. But we moved up to the front end, and this one is actually, this has this adapter plate that bolts onto the outlet off of your transfer case here. And so it's these bolts that go through that plate into, and they're threaded into this adapter. It works just like the front one. So we're going to take these out and then take out the carrier bearing. At least this is the plan, which should let the whole drive shaft drop down and move around a little bit. So then maybe I can get a little better angle, because I can't hardly get any angle on trying to fit my little socket on those tiny little bolts back there in the back. So we're going to try kind of changing our approach here and see. But like I said, got these broke loose. So I'm going to get them out, let this drive shaft want to come down. Before I drop it, I'm going to break the torque on that carrier bearing bracket and make sure I can get it down. But hopefully I can just zip those out with my impact wrench. Okay, so always easier said than done, but got the main part of the drive shaft down. You can see now, just looking down here, because I was able to swing the drive shaft to the side, you can see how much more access we have on those 2 little bolts there. So I'm gonna head back down to that other end now and try to get those pulled out of there. There, I got that sucker out of there. Not for any lack of effort either. That one bolt that I said I thought I stripped, it is fully stripped. That sucker rounded off. Oh! And so I was able to get the bottom one here out, but this one is totally spun off. I tried getting vice grips on it, no luck. Just like I can't get my camera to focus now, no luck. But what I ended up doing was just getting a little punch. I just used a bolt and a hammer, and I drove the cap out of here on that back U-joint, enough to get the drive shaft out at least and get that out of the way. I've got to try to get this off, and I think you can see splines right there, so I think it just drives off. Anyway, that's where I got to start. I'm going to take this U-joint apart first, just so I can break the shaft into 2 pieces, be able to work with it a little bit easier, because right now it's really long and awkward. So let's get after that. Okay, so I got to beating on that U-joint, not making any progress, and then I got mad. So I went to YouTube to see what other people did, and luckily found a young guy. I got to go back and watch the rest of the video, and I'll credit him in mine, because I'm just sharing what he showed me, basically. But anyway, this just slides apart. I was sitting there, I mean, I knew, like, looking at, okay, it's spline, it should just slide apart, but then in the back of your mind, you're always like, well, it's been on there for 20 years, like, is it really just going to slide apart? It really did, it really did. I gave it a little tap with a punch just to kind of break it in case there was any friction, but there's still good grease on there. I'll make sure to put more grease back on it before I put it back together. This looks almost like it has like a powder coating or something to really help so that it can't get a rust bond on it. But anyway, yeah, so that just slid right apart, so that helps a ton that I can sit there and roll this thing around. Now I gotta try to get this thing off. Okay, so we've made a little more progress, and again, credits to the other young man that I'm watching, because he's got more nerve than me. But he did, basically I did everything he's done. I used my grinder to cut off the bulk of the bearing, and then I used a smoke wrench to get off the last of this little collar that's the inside, and that's not something that I'm very comfortable with. I know how to use a torch, I know how to use a grinder and welder and all that, but it's not my preference. You can see it got a little hot. Hopefully I didn't cause any lasting damage on taking temper out. And you can see just a little bit of a channel that I cut there, but I'm gonna grab a wire brush and get this thing all cleaned up and see about getting that new carrier bearing fit on there. But first I want to see about still trying to replace these U-joints, because I've heard them clicking when I'm driving. I can hear them click every now and then, and I don't know if it's the fronts or the rears or what it is, but I'd like to get these done while I'm here, while I got it out. I need to try to get them done, so I need to try to get those worked on now, and then we'll go about putting this carrier bearing back on. Okay, so I don't have a proper U-joint cradle, which is what they recommend. So I am taking a little bit of a risk here on my yoke of my drive shaft. You can see it's actually been welded before. That's pretty crappy. So I've got my drive shaft setting just right here on my receiver hitch to get it up off the bed of the truck, and then that's letting me smack this fitting down. Just watching one other video, you just have to get you a socket. If you got a big impact socket or a piece of pipe, something big enough that it fits over the cap of your U-joint, so your cap sits in there. So you need to make sure it's big enough to fit over it so that it can swallow it. And you're actually driving this part of the assembly down, and so the cap rises up and out. And then you'll be able to get that cap to come all the way out. So I've got this side done. I'm gonna roll it over. You can see that's already pretty janky now, but we're gonna balance it up on here. And again, we're gonna set our socket right on that ear and then hammer down until that cap pops out here. I'll show you what it looks like as it starts coming out. So there you can see we started driving it out, and it fits over it nicely. And let's see if it embarrasses me or not, but bolt of it. I put a little WD-40 on there. Oh, look at that. Needle bearings. Whether I did that or that just happened, I don't know. But now that that's off, you should be able to work this back and forth. Get over one side, drop down, come off the other side. So there's that one out. Now I gotta find a new trick, because I need to try to rest these. I need to rest these on something to then be able to hammer the drive shaft itself down to drive these out. I feel like as a younger man I was hitting the caps and driving them in, but looking at it now, that's, if you hit the cap on this side, you could drive all the way through and drive that side out. Maybe that's what I used to do. But I like the idea of balancing them on a cradle of some sort a little better. So let me see what I can come up with for some sort of cradle, and let's get this other half out of here. Well, I thought this was all right. Not ideal, but it's working. I don't have a fancy U-joint stand to put this thing on, but what I came up with was these 2 legs out of my jack stands. They were just tall enough. I stood them up inside the cinder block, and the cinder block is just there to kind of help hold them in place. They're not held very well at all, but it's enough that the ears of the U-joint sit and saddle on the stand, and I was able to actually drive this thing down. So not ideal by any means, because it's sitting there wobbling around, but it's working. So just an idea, just figured I'd share. Okay, so with my old U-joints out, it's time to put the new one in. And again, I'm going with these Moog units, and they are greasable. There's a little baggie of parts here that's got the new clips and the grease zerd in it. So it's, you know, just the opposite of removal here on the install. We're gonna take two of the caps off and work the U-joint into this position, and then slide the caps back in from the outside, and you know, drive them down very, very gently. Drive the caps down until we can snap the ring in. That's all the further you want to go, just far enough to snap the ring in. Okay, so we've got our first U-joint here installed, and you know, you got to be careful setting these caps. They go in relatively easy, but you got to tap them with a hammer, and you don't want to dislodge your needles while you're doing that. Now they're really well packed in, they're really well greased, but you just don't want to dislodge them, so you want to be real careful. And what I like to do is hold the U-joint up inside of the cap while I tap it down, and drive it all the way in, and then flip it over, set your other cap in, and pick the U-joint back up again to it. That way you're not really hitting, even though you're leaving one not really with the U-joint in it, you're not really hitting it or dislodging it either. So we've got this one set, I think, far enough down. It's pretty doggone close. If it's not, we're going to set it here with the snap ring. But we're going to go ahead and take our snap ring and just line it up in here in the hole. I don't have proper snap ring pliers, so we're going to get these vice grips right on the corner. This is how I pulled the other ones out anyway. Just enough. Of course, the other ones came out easy. Now this one will probably fight me, but the other ones came out surprisingly easy considering how rusty they were. You'd think they'd be stuck in there, but... And don't pinch your finger. There we go. Just get it set down in. So it's not in the groove yet, but it's set down in the hole at least. Down in the... And then you can just kind of work your way around with a flathead screwdriver and press it. You can see it's not snapped in right here. It's snapped in on the corner there. It's snapped in back there. So now we're going to take another socket. These sockets are handy for driving. This one just fits down in that eye. And we're going to give it just a little tap. And it's still not quite down in there. I did go around. There it goes. You see now that there's not a gap there anymore. Zoom in close. See, there was a gap. No, there's not. I did go around with the screwdriver and I cleaned out the channel. So that one's in. We're going to roll our drive shaft over. So you can see our U-joint can still slide up and down. You can see this one here is not set. So I'm going to pull the joint up into it a little bit just to hold those bearings. I'm going to just perfectly position my socket, and every time I hit it, it's going to fall off, but that's the way I'm doing it. I think you can actually overset these and then drive them back, so you got a little bit of leniency here, but we'll set it, smack it. You can see we knocked it down there 1/16 of an inch. Hit it again, and like I said, I'm holding the U-joint up just to keep the pins in place, because if you just kind of let it fall and smack it, you might have one or two fall out and you don't know it. So this way it holds it up in there as a guide. Look at that. I think we're down. So we'll clean that track out again. Get our next lock ring, snap ring. Start it down in on that corner. And squeeze it just enough to get it in. Boom! That one's already in. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and set... Well, I don't know if I can. I'm going to go ahead and try to tap this one in. And I'm just working my way around nice and easy. I just want to see, yeah, see? I just totally screwed my bearings. My needle bearings all fell out. So I need to try to get that back out of there. Of course, now I probably won't be able to. So you can see how easy it is to do that, and there's enough play in these bearings that you could do it and not know that you did it. They could just fall and lay flat inside that cap. Oh, buddy. The things I do to teach you guys a lesson. Teach myself a lesson. What a fool. Got them stood up, then you can just kind of roll them around the edge with your finger and find the hole they came out of and get them to set back in. So you got those back in, so that's why you don't want to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and feed our top pin in there and then let our bottom pin drop down into the U-joint where it's supposed to be. And now the U-joint is sitting on that cap. Now we're going to take our top cap and go to set it in, and it's the same problem. This is where a press would be really nice, because a press wouldn't shock them like a hammer. You know, you're rapping on it. A press would just be real nice and easy. But we're going to do the same thing. It's a little harder to see now, but I'm going to try to bring the cap, or the, oops, I'm going to try to bring the joint up into the cap here. Get that started on there, and again, that's just to hold it. This is going to be really awkward. And I'm really trying to keep an eye on my lower cap, because again, now I can't do anything with it. I can't get my fingers in there. If those pins fall over, or the needles fall over, then we're back in a bad way. And I can see a couple of them look like they were wanting to move. So we're going to just set that down in to guide it and then go back to tapping. And again, normally you'd want to have, you know, I want to keep my socket on here to give a good even hit so I don't mushroom this out. But of course my socket's going to want to bounce around. I'm going to go ahead and lower that down again just real quick. Just do kind of a little alignment run, make sure everything still feels good. And then come back up. I still don't like how much that one slides side to side. It just seems, I don't know. When I look at these, they seem like a lot tighter fit. They seem like the caps are driven deeper. I'm not sure. I don't like that. I mean, that's, how can that be right? I want to look and see. Here's the other new one. I want to see if everything seems to be the same size. No, that's way smaller. That thing's a 1/4 inch shorter on both sides. The caps are maybe the same size. No, look, there's the metal body on the cap there. God. I don't trust that. It just, I mean, these don't have near that much side-to-side play, which is making the install really easy, but I mean, there's just so much, it darn near wants to fall out of there. And I don't know, it's, I mean, you've got over half the pin is exposed, which means it's just barely contacting the bearings. Now that's when it's shifted all the way over, so if we center it up, 1/4's exposed. I don't know. I gotta go to town anyway. I'm gonna take these old ones with me and look at them. Not that the sales rep at the auto parts store is really gonna know anything about it, but hopefully they can help me. I think these new ones, I think these are too small, which is gonna drive me quite angry, make me quite angry, since like I said, I bought them 2 years ago. The guy I bought them from is not gonna remember. He's not gonna give me credit for it to take them back. Oh, I do have the receipt. What would it hurt? take them back. Tell him I think he gave me the wrong ones. March of 17. I don't know if he'll honor it or not. Well, we got to go to town, see what we can figure out. Okay, so just got back from town, and they were able to take back 2 of the U-joints. They wouldn't take the third one because I, of course, had used it, which you kind of want to argue and be like, yeah, I also wasted 2 hours trying to install the wrong U-joint that you gave me, but whatever. So we got the right ones. The only difference is the ones they'd sold me before was a 331, and these are a 330. So close, but we did fit them up there in the store, made sure they were the same length and size. So we're going to try again here. We're going to start over. You can tell it's a better fit just because it's a little bit tighter. It didn't drop in there as easy. Turn that over. That boy, he's over there grunting. He's really working on digging that hole. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's after something. Okay, I got the carrier bearing back on. I don't have a press, and I didn't even have a collar to use for driving, so I just put it on there and got it started, just kind of wiggling it down by hand. And then I had a bigger punch that I used until this shoulder got even, and then I have a slightly smaller punch that I just worked my way around the edge, working down inside that little groove to tap it in there. And I've already crawled up under the truck and fit it. It's on there. I mean, it's on there as far as I can get it to go. I can tell by the way the hammer's kind of bouncing. I think it's seated. It didn't quite look like it fits, but this rubber has just a little bit of play, so I was able to just pull it a little bit, and then it lines up just fine. So anyway, that's on there. So now I just got to do these other 2 U-joints, and then we'll put it all back together and bolt it back up. Oh, I still got to get that stripped off bolt out, but let me get these U-joints done, and then I'll work on that bolt. All right, well, that's finally put all back together. Got my grease cert put in here. Got one on the other end. So that's the other end that actually sits up in that rear yoke, and I was able to coax it out of the rear yoke with that screw stripped off. Might be able to put it back in. I think I want to try that before I go to all the work of trying to take that bolt out. And I know that's really irresponsible, because then in the future, you know, maybe 10 years from now, if I do these things again, it'll piss me off then. But anyway, it's worth a shot. See if I can slip it up in there. That one did give me some trouble too. The clips on both of those, oh gosh, spring clamps. Why can't I think of the word for them right now? Snap rings. The snap rings were both rusted on that one, and they both broke. So I had to chisel them out with a screwdriver. I had 2 screwdrivers here and had to chisel my way around the edge and kind of pry them up and out as I went. That was the only ones that gave me fits. All the rest of them pulled out super easy. So anyway, this is reassembled. That's reassembled. It's all ready to go back in the truck. Just got to see, like I said, if I can get. I just got to see if I can get that end tricked up over that inside that that clamp, that strap where that bolt broke or stripped off. But we had a little rain shower popped up and got rain blew underneath my truck, so now all my tarp and everything's all wet. So I got to try to drag that out, pick up all the tools off of it, and then relay it out so I'm not laying in water.
It was Rocky.
Blame Rocky. Blaming the cat for farting. Oh! Oh, let's see. We need to still try to put our... Yeah, I'm not quite ready for this yet. I still got to put the spline connection back together here. Let's see if we can slide that up in the truck. And hopefully, maybe just some WD-40 here. I ain't got much left. There's still a good bit of grease on that. So I scratched it there, and here's where I pinged it. Got started. Figured this would be the hardest part. Because those splines.
Daddy, can I start shoveling wood chips?
Sure.
Where do you want me to put them?
In the goat pen, honey.
Yeah, but where in the goat?
On the walking paths.
Are we coming and walk?
Yep. Well, I don't remember how far that was together.
They're like,
I don't know if it was drove all the way on there or not.
and all,
Me.
and all the other goats.
Let me go back and look at the video I made at the start of this and see what it shows me. See, this is where else. Thinking maybe I can trick it to go back in that clip. What's up, sucker punk? See if you guys can see what I can see. Oh, there it is. Managed to hammer it right back up behind that clamp so I didn't have to deal with that stripped out bolt. Mosquitoes trying to bite my knuckles, man. These mosquitoes are so bad. Hey Emerson, can you give me my little toolbox out of the bed of the truck? On the tailgate? Yeah, the little black toolbox.
Is Emerson trying to help you?
Waiting on that boy to get me my ratchet. I'll just use a wrench until he gets here.
Got it.
Okay. Can you bring it to me? Oh, hey, don't throw it at me now. Well, where's the ratchet at? I need the actual ratchet, the driver. It's up there somewhere.
That one. That one.
That one. That's the one. Thanks, buddy. Oh, he's a good boy. He's such a good boy. Y'all wish you could have a boy like that. Okay, that one's in. Now we go to the middle and try to do our carrier bearing. And to do that, of course, I've got to get out from underneath this drive shaft. I can spin it around, hoist it up here, and you should be able to hoist it up. And it is nowhere near close enough. Oh, goodness gracious. That's what I was afraid of. So now I gotta try to hammer that thing on there further while it's underneath the truck. Alright. I'm gonna cut this video off, y'all. I'm getting aggravated, but it's gonna go up there, clips in, bolts in, and then 4 bolts up front. Y'all get the point. Alright. Well, it's finished. Got the rear end slipped back in there and bolted up. Carrier bearings bolted up. And the front's bolted up. That was quite the pain in the butt. That drive shaft is not light, and you got to try to bench press it up on top yourself. The mosquitoes are driving me absolutely crazy. Just have to kind of sit there and let them chew on you for a while you do something. And it took me multiple iterations of trying to line it up. Still wasn't together far enough. I couldn't slide that spline back together just by hand. So I'd have to drag the thing out to the side of the truck, tap it with a hammer to scooch it together a little bit more, You didn't want to go too far because then your bolts on the front, on the back of the transfer case wouldn't line up. So anyway, I think it took me 3 attempts. Finally got it up there, got it all bolted up tight. I did screw up on the rear U-joint. I mean, I didn't even think about it being an issue when I put it in, but I can't grease it. The grease cert is facing backwards, and I thought maybe I could, maybe I can still squeeze a grease gun in there and get on it, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to. The grease cert should be facing towards the front of the truck. There's a little bit more space cut out there on the drive shaft than there is on the yoke, but it's facing backwards. So anyway, I'm gonna go grab my little grease gun out of the sawmill, put a couple pumps of grease into each one, and then pick up tools, and we're done with this.